Stop composting, seriously. If you're still turning a pile twice a week, checking temperatures, waiting 6 months for scraps to become usable soil, you might be solving the wrong problem. For years, I did exactly that. Managed the pile, monitored the heat, flipped it on schedule, waited patiently for nature to finish the job, and then I realized something uncomfortable. There's a method that does everything compost does. Builds fertility, feeds soil life, improves structure, but it requires zero turning, almost zero maintenance, and no waiting period before you plant. It's been used in Germany and Eastern Europe for decades, probably centuries, and most modern gardeners completely overlook it. It's called Regenerative, and if you care about low-input living, about building systems that reduce work instead of adding to it, this changes how you think about soil forever. Here's the core idea. Instead of composting organic matter in a pile, you bury it directly under your garden bed. Logs, branches, dead wood, the stuff most people burn, chip, or haul away. You stack it, you layer it, you cover it with soil. Then you plant directly into it, that's it. No turning schedule, no temperature monitoring, no 6-month delay while you wait for finished compost. Because the decomposition happens underground, slowly, strategically, over years, not weeks. And that shift, from fast breakdown to slow release, is where the leverage lives. Let's break it down simply. Imagine you have fallen logs in your yard. Instead of cutting them up or dragging them to the curb, you dig a shallow trench, maybe 2 feet deep. You lay those logs in the trench, big pieces first, then medium branches, then smaller debris. You fill gaps with soil. On top of that, you add organic matter, grass clippings, leaves, manure, compost, then a thick layer of good soil. Now you plant into the top. Underneath your crops is a buried wood core. That wood becomes a long-term engine. As it decomposes, it does 4 powerful things at once. First, it releases nutrients slowly. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, not in one big flush like compost, but gradually over years. A properly built bed can feed plants for 20 years, in cool climates even longer. Second, it stores water. Wood is a sponge. When it rains, that buried core absorbs moisture and holds it. During dry spells, it releases that moisture back into the soil. Many gardeners report cutting irrigation by 50 to 75% after the first year. Third, it aerates your soil automatically. As wood breaks down, it shrinks. That creates air pockets underground. Roots move deeper. Oxygen flows freely. Drainage improves without tilling. Fourth, it generates heat in the early stages of decomposition. That warmth can extend your growing season by a week or 2 in spring and fall. And here's the strategic difference. While you're waiting for compost to finish, a Regenerative bed is already working. It's building fertility, storing water, improving structure, feeding microbes, supporting plants, all simultaneously, no second system required. This isn't a trendy backyard hack. Permaculture designers like Paul Wheaton build Regenerative beds up to 7 feet tall to maximize water storage and surface area. Austrian farmer Sepp Holzer scaled the concept across entire landscapes, mounds stretching hundreds of meters long, transforming marginal land into productive systems. But here's what matters for you. You don't need 7-foot mountains. A 3-foot bed in a backyard changes the game, because the real power isn't the height, it's the mindset shift. Traditional composting is reactive. You create waste. You manage waste. You wait for waste to become useful. Permaculture is proactive. You design fertility directly into the bed. The system matures while you grow food. Instead of feeding your soil once a year, you install a slow-release fertility battery beneath it. That's low-input thinking, and when you zoom out, the implications get bigger. Most gardeners treat soil fertility like a subscription model. Every year, buy compost, buy fertilizer, buy amendments. Permaculture is infrastructure. You invest time up front, then the system compounds. Less watering, less soil amending, less dependency, more resilience. You're not maintaining a garden anymore, you're installing one. And that difference between maintaining and installing is where most people miss the opportunity. In the next section, we're going deeper into the science, why buried wood becomes a moisture battery, how nutrient release actually works, and what most people misunderstand about this system in year 1. Because there is one challenge you need to understand before you build it. Now let's talk about that challenge, because year 1 is where most people panic. When you bury fresh wood underground, something happens that scares new gardeners. Plants can look a little pale, growth can slow down, leaves may show signs of nitrogen deficiency, and that's not a failure, it's biology. When microbes begin breaking down wood, they need nitrogen to do the job. Wood is high in carbon and very low in nitrogen. So soil organisms temporarily borrow nitrogen from the surrounding soil to balance the carbon-heavy material. This process is called nitrogen immobilization. It sounds complicated, it isn't. In simple terms, the microbes take nitrogen first. Plants get less for a short time, and if you don't understand that, you might assume the method doesn't work. But here's the key distinction: the nitrogen isn't lost. It's stored inside microbial bodies. As those microbes live, die, and cycle, that nitrogen is released back into the soil in a more stable, plant-available form. Short-term tightening, long-term abundance. This is why experienced builders treat year one differently. They add extra nitrogen on top of the bed. Manure, grass clippings, finished compost, even diluted urine in some traditional systems. Anything rich in nitrogen to balance the carbon core. After that first season, the system stabilizes. And once it stabilizes, it accelerates. Because here's what's really happening underground. Wood isn't just decomposing, it's becoming habitat. Fungi colonize the buried logs. Mycorrhizal networks expand. Those fungal threads connect plant roots across the bed, increasing nutrient exchange efficiency and drought resistance. This is forest biology recreated in your garden. In a forest, no one turns compost piles. Trees fall, wood decays in place. Fungal networks distribute nutrients slowly and continuously. The soil deepens over time. Hugelkultur mimics that exact pattern. Instead of fast bacterial decomposition like a hot compost pile, you get fungal dominant breakdown, slower, steadier, more resilient. And fungal dominant soils are especially powerful for perennial crops. Fruit trees, berries, asparagus, rhubarb. If you're building a long-term food system, this matters. Now let's address moisture more precisely. When wood decomposes, its internal structure changes. Lignin and cellulose break down, leaving porous cavities. Those cavities hold water like a reservoir. Think of it as underground irrigation storage. During heavy rain, instead of runoff, water is captured. During drought, roots tap downward into stored reserves. This is why mature hugelkultur beds often need dramatically less watering after year one. Not because they're magic, because they've built storage capacity into the soil profile itself. And this is where low-input living intersects perfectly with the system. Most garden work comes from fighting instability. Dry soil, compacted soil. Nutrient swings. We respond with labor, watering, tilling, fertilizing. Hugelkultur reduces the swings. It smooths the curve. But let's be honest about something else. This system is not ideal everywhere. If you live in an extremely dry climate with no supplemental water at all, the first year still requires attention while the wood hydrates. If you have very shallow soil over bedrock, deep trenches may not be possible. And if you bury treated lumber or black walnut, you create problems instead of solutions. Untreated hardwood is ideal. Softwoods work too. Avoid anything chemically treated. Design still matters. The method is simple. The thinking behind it is strategic. And here's the deeper shift most people don't articulate. Composting is about processing waste. Hugelkultur is about storing energy. Wood is stored sunlight. Years of captured energy locked inside fiber. When you bury it, you're banking that energy underground, releasing it slowly over time. You're not just improving soil. You're installing long-term biological capital. That's a very different lens. Now let's get practical, because theory is interesting, but structure is what determines whether this works beautifully or becomes a frustrating experiment. First decision, trench or mound. Most people picture hugelkultur as a tall mound, 3, 4, even 6 feet high. And that absolutely works. Tall mounds increase surface area, they warm faster in spring, they drain well in heavy rain. But they're not mandatory. If you want something subtle, especially in a suburban yard, you can build a flat or slightly raised bed instead. Dig a trench 18-24 inches deep, lay your wood, backfill, shape it just 8-12 inches above ground level. From the outside it looks like a normal raised bed. Underneath it's infrastructure. Now let's talk wood selection. Big logs go at the bottom. Think wrist thick to thigh thick. Hardwoods are ideal. Oak, maple, birch, poplar. Softwoods like pine work too. They just break down a bit faster. Avoid treated lumber, painted wood, black walnut, as its compounds can inhibit plant growth. And freshly cut massive logs that haven't dried at all. Slightly aged wood is perfect, partially rotted logs are gold. Why? Because they're already colonized by fungi. That jumpstarts the biological process. Next layer, medium branches. These fill gaps between large logs. You're reducing air voids without compacting everything solid. Remember, we want structure, but not huge empty pockets that collapse later. Then smaller debris, twigs, sticks, rough organic waste. After that comes the nitrogen buffer. This is where most beginners underbuild. Add a thick layer, at least several inches, of nitrogen-rich material. Grass clippings, manure, kitchen scraps, even partially finished compost. This is what protects your year 1 crops from nitrogen lockup. Then topsoil. At least 8 to 12 inches of good growing soil on top. More is better if you can afford it. The deeper your planting layer, the smoother your first season will be. Now here's the design tweak most people miss. Pre-soak the wood. If you build during dry weather, water the trench thoroughly before covering it. Soak the logs. Let them absorb moisture before burial. Dry wood underground will initially pull water from the surrounding soil. Prehydrated wood becomes a sponge immediately instead of a wick. That one step can dramatically improve year 1 performance. Now let's talk orientation. If you're building a mound, run it east to west. Why? Because the south-facing side gets maximum sun exposure. That creates microclimates. The south slope becomes warmer and drier, perfect for tomatoes, peppers, herbs. The north side stays cooler and more moisture retentive, ideal for leafy greens or brassicas. You're not just building a bed, you're creating multiple growing environments in one structure. And if you shape the mound with gentle slopes instead of steep walls, you reduce erosion and make planting easier. Now here's something most compost-focused gardeners struggle with mentally. A hugelkultur bed looks messy at first. It's not perfectly uniform. It may settle unevenly the first season. The surface might sink a few inches as internal materials compress. That's normal. This is infrastructure settling into place. Expect it. Plan for it. Add soil if needed in year 2. The goal isn't cosmetic perfection in month 3. The goal is year 5 performance with half the inputs. And that brings us to scale. You don't need to convert your entire garden at once. Build one bed. Test it. Plant heavy feeders in year 1. Squash, pumpkins, potatoes, crops that tolerate minor nitrogen fluctuation. By year 2, that same bed becomes incredibly stable. Perennials thrive. Deep-rooted crops explore the decomposing core. By year 3, you'll notice something subtle but powerful. The soil feels different, looser, darker, more sponge-like, even during dry periods. That's when you realize you're no longer managing soil fertility. It's managing itself. Now let's zoom out. Because hugelkultur isn't just a gardening trick. It's a land design principle. When you bury wood under a bed, you're not just improving soil fertility for a season. You're changing how water moves through your landscape. You're changing how nutrients cycle. You're changing how resilient that piece of ground becomes over time. And once you see that, it's hard to unsee. Think about how most gardens function. Water falls from the sky. It hits compacted soil. Some of it runs off, some evaporates. A portion reaches plant roots. When nutrients deplete, we import more. Compost, not fertilizer. Bagged amendments, it's an input-heavy loop. Hugelkultur flips that model. Instead of surface-level management, you build subsurface storage. Rain doesn't just wet the top few inches. It sinks into a buried carbon core. It's held there, protected from evaporation. Released slowly, that reduces runoff. That reduces irrigation, that reduces dependency. Now imagine stacking this approach across a property. A hugelkultur bed under annual vegetables. Buried wood rings around fruit trees. Woody debris trenches along contour lines to slow and store rainwater. Suddenly you're not just growing food. You're building hydrology into your soil. That's when gardening becomes system design. And this is where low input living truly lives. Low input isn't about doing less carelessly. It's about designing so well up front that ongoing labor decreases naturally. It's about replacing repetitive effort with smart infrastructure. A compost pile is ongoing management. A hugelkultur bed is installed resilience. And yes, there are situations where compost still makes sense. Small spaces, containers. Fast nutrient boosts, nothing wrong with it. But if your goal is long-term fertility with fewer inputs, buried carbon beats managed piles. Now let's be honest about one more thing. Hugelkultur rewards patience. The first year, it's promising. The second year, it's impressive. By year 3 or 4, it's obvious. You'll notice crops surviving dry spells that stress other beds. You'll notice fewer amendments needed. You'll notice richer soil texture with almost no intervention. And that's when you realize something powerful. You didn't just build a garden, you installed a biological battery beneath it, one that stores water, stores nutrients, stores energy, and releases it slowly, quietly, predictably. That's leverage, that's compounding. That's the difference between maintaining systems and designing them. So, if you've been turning compost every week, monitoring temperatures, waiting for finished material, maybe it's time to rethink the model. Maybe it's time to bury the pile. If this way of thinking resonates with you, if you care about building systems that reduce work instead of adding to it, this is exactly what we explore here. Practical strategies, long-term thinking, soil that improves itself. This is low-input living. If you found this useful, subscribe, share it with someone who's tired of hauling compost, and start looking at your yard not as something to manage, but something to design.